Welcome back to the news at 10. As Nigerians get revelation on the huge amounts of money allegedly stolen by politicians who served during the last administration, some people have come up with the idea of the establishment of a special court for the looters. Those for this special court believe that judges who have long years of experience or retired, who have served the country meritoriously, would be well disposed to handle such cases without compromise. But there are others who argue that the laws are already in place to take care of the looters, but that fearless and courageous judges should be given the responsibility. Let's discuss this now. I'm being joined on the news at 10 by a Supreme Court counsel, Mr. Osaho Iheye. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you've heard the argument about establishment of a special court for looters. What do you think?
I do not think that we really need special courts because we already have them anyway. At least I know that in the Lagos judiciary, you have the criminal division of the Lagos State Judiciary, where criminal matters are specially tried by judges who are like experts, as it were, in criminal matters.
So in other words, I mean, these cases can be tried in the ordinary courts.
In those courts, in those criminal courts, these cases, corruption cases, I mean, it's all about stealing anyway, can be tried in those courts, those criminal courts, I mean, in the judiciary, already established, of course.
But, the argument is that if you use judges that are already serving, they could be bribed and they could be lured into making decisions, pronouncing judgments that are probably in favor of the looters themselves. So do you support the argument that we should have retired judges coming to do the job, and which is why they're suggesting a special court?
No, I do not agree that they should have retired judges coming. Before you retire as a judge of the High Court, you must be at least 65 years old. That means some of them are hitting 70 and above. I do not think that they are in a better position to handle these criminal cases. Criminal cases should be given to the criminal court. There are criminal courts. There are courts in the Lagos State Judiciary that handle only criminal matters. What they can then do is to expand it, probably have more judges posted to the criminal division for them to handle such matters. Because if you ask me, it is not about what bothers me really is what happens when these cases are tried, what kind of judgments are delivered. That's what really bothers me. In a situation where you take somebody to a court, probably when you take a governor to a court, he's stolen billions, and before you know it, the matter is all over and done with. The person is asked to refund 500,000 or pay a fine of 5 million, having stolen billions. I think that is not acceptable. That is the problem we have, really.
That probably might be why people are suggesting that there should be special courts. You just mentioned that, the main problem will be that if you get to the courts, these problems that you mentioned will come up, which is probably why people are suggesting that you have a special court and you have people who cannot be moved, who cannot be swayed in any direction, handle the cases.
I think it is insulting on the judges, serving judges, to say that they can be bribed and they can be, moved and all that. I think it's an insult on them. I think they are capable hands already in the judiciary, in the criminal division of at least the Lagos High Court where I practice, and I think they can handle these matters. What I am bothered about is what the outcome of the cases. They should be already we have practice directions that's supposed to expedite action in these areas.
But you already have cases of corrupt judges.
Of course, there are corrupt judges.
So if you do take these sorts of cases of corruption into courts where you have these judges, are you sure you will get a proper judgment?
For God's sake, if there are corrupt judges, I think the judiciary should deal with them. The NJC should deal with them. Because you get judges from lawyers, and of course you get lawyers from Nigerians. So there are corrupt Nigerians. There are Nigerians who are also not corrupt. So if you want to say that because you think a judge is corrupt, such matters should not go to that court, I think that is not the way out. The way out is if the judge is corrupt and it is shown that he has been corrupted in a particular matter, that judge should be dealt with, dismissed, and whatever. I think that is the better way to go. It's not about saying judges are corrupt. I think it's an insult to say that because the serving judges are corrupt, and then the old ones should come back.
And it is only natural that you would defend, your own colleagues and members of your profession. But we'll leave it there. Mr. Osahoye, and thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And in line with the new administration's resolve to check corruption in the public service, the National Space Research and Development Agency has advised the federal government to prosecute any ministry which squanders government funds to procure satellite images, which is obtainable in the country. The Director General of the National Space Research and Development Agency, Dr. Saidu Mohammed, observed that there is a law backing such acts but needs to be implemented by the government to prevent future leakages in the system.
Tracking terrorist activities, giving advance warnings of natural disasters like floods, are some of the benefits the National Space Research and Development Agency provides for the country through satellite images from NIGCOMSAT, SAT-1, 2 and X. However, these services have been limited owing to lack of patronage, which has been a major setback for the research agency.
We have satellites acquiring images, and we also had some other support of images from other countries domiciled with us in our archive. As a federal government ministry or department, for you to go out of your way to buy images, you must come here, confirm first whether such images are available. And if not, we can also support them to acquire such images. And if you're on your own, you go and waste federal government money, of course, it is against the law. We are recommending that such ministries and departments should be prosecuted.
Some of the experts said the lack of confidence which heightened after the disappearance of the second communication satellite NIGCOMSAT launched in May 2007 should discontinue, as the Nigeria SAT-2 and X are still in operation 4 years after it was developed.
The satellite will not disappear again. You don't need to fear to fail once. It is when you fail repeatedly that becomes a challenge. It will not. It has been there for the past 42 months. I will advise the federal government to pay more attention to space technology development, and the one we have, this will put it to maximum use.
It has been used to map the areas where we have security challenges, and we have supplied the images of those areas to security organizations in the country, including the work that we did and we submitted to the NSA in the last administration. So the usage of the satellite cut across every facet of our lives.
The Space Research Agency had earlier set a goal to develop an indigenous satellite by its trained engineers, which would roll out in 2018, but says another timeline can be set with more resources. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
It's time for business news now. Let's join Loretta Chogo.
Welcome now to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed Dr. William Babatunde Fowler as the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Dr. Fowler was the Chief Executive Officer of the Lagos State Board of Internal Revenue from 2005 to 2014. Now, before joining the service of the Lagos State government, Dr. Fowler worked in the banking sector for about 20 years. Under his leadership, the Lagos State Board of Internal Revenue reportedly achieved a sharp increase in internally generated revenue from an average of 3.6 billion naira per month in January 2006 to an average of about 20.5 billion naira per month in 2013. He will serve as acting executive chairman of FIRS until his appointment is confirmed by the Senate. The president also named Aliyu Guzo as the new Director General of the Budget Office. The appointments take immediate effect. And at the stock exchange, the Nigeria's equities market shed 0.98% today. The all-share index is now at 29,747.57 points. Harriet Agbeyi has more.
Hello and welcome. welcome to the Stock Market Report. The equities market lost almost 1% today as investors maintained a negative stance on stocks. 0.98% was shaved off the NSE All-Share Index, pulling it down to 29,747.57. Market capitalization came in at 10.19 trillion naira. Market breadth was better today as 16 stocks appreciated. Nestle, after 3 straight days of profit-taking, topped the gainers list. The equity closed at 882 naira. It's followed by Flour Mills Nigeria and Access Bank. On the flip side, Seplat, with a 5% loss, closed at 245 naira 30 kobo. Dangote Cement follows with a 3.28% loss to end the session at 177 naira. And Guinness Nigeria lost 4.13% to also make the list. Now, over 2.53 billion units of equity assurance was traded today, making it the top trade for the day. Major transaction in equity assurance contributed to total market volume of 2.87 billion shares exchanged in over 4,014 deals valued at 5.28 billion naira. Well, those are the day's trading figures. I'm Harriet Agbini.
Thank you, Harriet. Now, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council has announced plans to commence the export of professional services outside the shores of the country to boost its non-oil export sector. Speaking at a meeting in Abuja, the executive director of the council, Mr. Olusegun Awolowo, said that the initiative will help the nation meet up with its goal of wealth creation, employment and poverty reduction. He also listed information technology, education and the health sectors as some of the areas it will be looking at in reviewing the contribution of the service sector to the nation's economy.
We're looking at IT, we're looking at capturing Nollywood, we're looking at our music, we're looking at exports of our doctors, of our lecturers, we're looking at even capturing our footballers that go abroad to play. So these are all the professions that we need to capture, so we can come into our database and improve our non-oil revenue. So by 2050, services is going to capture 80% of world trade. Services. So why are we not getting ready and prepared for that? One of the strengths of our economy is the median age of the population, and that is driving our growth. Sub-Saharan Africa is set to grow at 5.1 this year. Because of all the challenges we had, our figures were 7.2 before, but now we've dropped to 5.1. But then developed countries are at 3%. So you can see that the growth of a nation's economy, and that's why everybody is saying Nigeria, 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 and we must realize it and we must capture it.
And finally, on business news, market figures in some parts of Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas closed in the negative territory today. Let's take a look at the figure analysis. And that's it on business news. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.